You were never actually dead, but something in you believed you were. Something in you accepted the grave they built around your life, the silence, the smallness, the suffocating weight of being misunderstood by everyone who claimed to love you. You looked at the walls of that tomb and you thought, this is just who I am. You are watching this right now, not by accident. There are billions of videos on this platform, billions. And yet here you are, here, reading these words, feeling something move in your chest that you haven't felt in a long time. That is not coincidence. That is selection. There is a category of human being that the world has never known what to do with. Too deep for shallow people, too sensitive for numb people, too awake for people who chose comfortable sleep. You have been called too much, too intense, too different, too hard to understand. But what if that was never a flaw? What if that was the mark of someone who was never meant to fit, never meant to shrink, never meant to spend their life performing normalcy for people who couldn't see what was standing right in front of them? Your tomb is empty now. The stone has been rolled away. And this message, this exact message, was placed in your path today because something in the universe decided it is time. Time for you to walk out. If this message found you at the right moment, type "Risen" in the comments right now. Let the other chosen ones know they are not alone. Part 1. The tomb they built for you. They didn't use stone and mortar. They used words. You're too sensitive. That was one brick. Why can't you just be normal? That was another. Stop overthinking everything. Stop feeling so much. Stop being so difficult to understand. Brick, brick, brick. And slowly, without realizing it, you helped them build it. Because you were young, because you trusted them, because when the people who were supposed to see you failed to see you, you don't question their vision, you question your existence. That is what happened to you. Not a dramatic collapse, not a single breaking point. It was a slow burial, day after day, rejection after quiet rejection, the accumulation of moments where you were too much for rooms that were too small. So you learned to make yourself smaller. You folded your wings inward. You swallowed your voice. You started performing a version of yourself that could survive in environments that were never designed for someone like you. And here is the cruelest part of it all. You got good at it. You became so skilled at hiding what you were that you started forgetting what you were. The tomb became your identity. The silence became your personality. The numbness became your normal. But deep underneath all of that performance, underneath all of that survival, something refused to die. A fire that couldn't be extinguished. A knowing that whispered, even in the darkest nights, this is not the whole story. There is more. You are more. You felt it, didn't you? Even when you couldn't name it, even when you pushed it down, even when you told yourself you were being delusional or dramatic or too much again, you felt it. That feeling was not your ego speaking. That was your truth refusing burial. And it waited, patiently, faithfully, the way only real things wait. Not with urgency, not with demands, just with a quiet, unshakable certainty that eventually you would remember. And now you are here.
Part 2. What made you different was never a wound. Let's talk about what you actually are. Not what they told you, not the story you inherited, not the diagnosis, the label, the nickname, the role you were assigned in the family system. What you actually are. You are someone who feels the world at a frequency most people cannot access. That is not metaphor. That is neurological reality. Chosen ones, and yes, that is what you are, process emotional information more deeply than 80% of the population. You notice the subtleties, you read the rooms, you feel the energy shift before anyone else in the building even registers that something changed. You were born with an instrument most people don't possess, and they called it a problem because they didn't have it. Because what they cannot understand, they fear. And what they fear, they try to diminish. And so they diminished you. Systematically, relentlessly, with smiles on their faces and the best of intentions. That is the specific tragedy of the chosen one's early life. You were not broken by enemies. You were quietly dismantled by people who loved you the only way they knew how, which was not nearly enough for what you needed. And so you carried that wound into every room you entered. You looked for confirmation that you were too much. You found it everywhere because you were looking. But here is what changes today. The sensitivity they called weakness is your signal reception. The depth they called overthinking is your ability to see 10 moves ahead. The intensity they called exhausting is your capacity to love, create, and transform at a level that will reshape everything it touches. You were not given a wound, you were given a weapon. And the entire first chapter of your life was simply you learning what it felt like to carry something this powerful before you understood what it was for. That chapter is over. Part 3. The resurrection is not comfortable. You need to hear this next part. The walk out of the tomb is not graceful. It is not a beautiful sunrise moment with soft music and golden light. It is disorienting. It is terrifying. It is the feeling of your legs remembering how to carry weight they have not carried in years. Because resurrection is violent in its kindness. It does not ask your permission. Something in you has already decided. Something deeper than your fears, older than your conditioning, stronger than every voice that told you to stay small. It has already chosen. And now your mind must catch up to what your soul already knows. This is the phase you may be in right now. The discomfort phase. The I can feel something shifting, but I don't know what to do with it phase. You feel restless without knowing why. You feel like the life you've been living is a costume that no longer fits. The distractions that used to numb you no longer work. That is not a breakdown. That is the tomb cracking open from the inside. That is you pushing against the stone. Do not reach for the painkiller. Do not run back to the comfortable numbness. Do not pick up the habit, the toxic relationship, the self-betrayal you've been trying to leave for years. Stay in the discomfort. Because on the other side of that discomfort is not just relief. On the other side is your actual life. The version of your life you glimpsed in dreams. The version that felt too good to believe. The one that made you feel guilty for wanting it. Because who were you to deserve something that beautiful? You are who deserves it. And the only price of entry is the willingness to walk through the fire of your own becoming without flinching. Keep walking.
Part 4. Who walks out of an empty tomb? Let me tell you who emerges. Not a superhero, not a perfected, healed, invincible being who has transcended all pain. No. What walks out of the tomb is something far more powerful than that. What walks out is you, fully integrated, the sensitive one and the strong one, the wounded one and the wise one, the one who broke and the one who rebuilt, the one who was buried and the one who refused to stay buried, both together, whole. And that wholeness is your superpower. Because you had been to places that most people will never go. You have sat in darkness long enough to know it by name. You have felt grief that most people intellectualize. You have known loneliness that most people medicate. And you survived it. Not just survived, you were changed by it. Tempered like metal that becomes stronger through fire, like a bone that heals denser at the point of fracture. You are not damaged goods. You are a refined instrument. And the world, the real world, the world that is hungry for authentic transformation, needs exactly what you carry. Your story is not a liability. Your story is your authority. Every person you will ever guide through darkness will trust you not because you have a certificate on the wall, but because they will look in your eyes and see someone who has been there, someone who knows the way out, because you walked it. That is the chosen one's assignment, not to be worshipped, not to be perfect, not to perform some elevated spiritual identity for an audience. The assignment is simple. Go first, then reach back. Walk out of your own tomb, and then extend your hand. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when the fear disappears and the path is clear and the world finally gives you permission. Now, because the tomb does not grant exits, you have to take the exit. You have to decide in this exact moment that you are done rehearsing your smallness, done apologizing for your depth, done waiting for the people who buried you to hand you the shovel. They won't, and you don't need them to. The stone has already moved. I don't know how your specific resurrection looks. Maybe it's a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a dream you've been dismissing. Maybe it's a boundary you need to draw. Maybe it's 3 words you need to say to the mirror every morning until your nervous system starts to believe them. I am chosen. Say it even if it sounds arrogant. Say it even if it feels untrue. Say it especially when the tomb feels more comfortable than the open air. Because the chosen one's greatest battle is never with the external world. It is with the part of themselves that became comfortable with the grave. You are not comfortable here anymore. You haven't been for a while. That discomfort is the invitation. The tomb is empty. Your resurrection is not coming. It is here. It has always been here. Now walk out, chosen one. Walk out. If this found you, share it with the chosen one who needs to hear it today. They are waiting.